You're listening to episode number 29 of the Play Your Position podcast.
Welcome to the Play Your Position podcast, where your story matters and we make it count. Here's your host, Mary Lou Kaser. Let's get started.
Kickoff, move the chains, and touchdowns. Welcome to the Play Your Position podcast, where each week another insightful conversation makes it into the end zone. I'm your host, Mary Lou Kaser, and this is the podcast that features conversations with and about people who show up and play full out each and every day. They are the people you admire: entrepreneurs, writers, artists, musicians, parents, teachers, athletes, adventurers, and their stories give us a glimpse into what it means to be human. My goal for each episode is to inspire you with stories that make you think, open you up to new ideas, try new things, and keep playing full out in your life and work in order to make a difference. As always, details about each episode can be found over on the show notes page at my website, maryloukaser.com/podcast, where you will find a clickable list of each episode. I am super excited about what's in store for us today, so let's get started. It could not be more fitting to kick off 2015, but with some thoughts about the previous year and what's exciting about the next 12 months. Like so many others listening today, I imagine you enjoyed a reduced work schedule over the holidays. I sure did, and I took some time to visit with family and friends, and I ate way too many gingerbread cookies. My parents were in town, my daughter was home from college, and life was pretty grand. Now, it is hard for me to ever completely unplug, so between baking batches of cookies and fixing family dinners, I fiddled with some projects that will come to fruition this year. I'm excited about those, and I'm sure I will share more as they get farther along in development. But overall, I stayed away from social media and the computer, and I gave my mind a chance to focus on activities I normally don't engage in. And I found over the years that that's always a great way to recharge and refocus and really just let down. And, let's face it, in this busy world that we live in, we need those breaks. Now, one thing that happened was I watched my first episode of Downton Abbey. My parents had been hooked on that show from the start, and believe it or not, I had managed to escape the Downton Abbey madness, unlike just about everybody else that I know, until I decided to watch an episode with Mom and Dad, and now I'm looking into buying the DVD set of the first 4 seasons. I can see why people have been making a fuss about this program, and I suppose there could be worse programs to binge watch, but I think it's kind of funny that, the show just aired, I think its 5th season yesterday, and I'm just catching up. But again, I fell in love with the characters and the setting, and what can I say? Now, another cool thing that happened at the end, actually on the very first day of this new year, that set the tone really, really well, is I was fortunate enough to be in attendance for the 101st Rose Bowl down in Pasadena, California, watching my beloved Oregon Ducks play the Florida State University Seminoles, and quite handedly beat the Seminoles. And my apologies to any Florida State Seminoles fans who might be listening today. What happens in life can happen on the football field, and one team just didn't have what it took. One team just didn't have what it took to win it out. In fact, they quit on themselves about halfway through, and that's always hard to watch. The mistakes that they made, the Ducks were able to capitalize on those, and I was really in my element. What was really cool about that experience, aside from just being there, was the fact that My folks were able to join me, and they had never seen the Oregon Ducks play. Their granddaughter, my daughter, is a freshman at the University of Oregon, so it was a very special day. And now we are staring down, in less than a week, the Ducks playing for the national title in college football against the Ohio State Buckeyes. So, exciting times. Overall, 2014 was a better year than not for me. I have a lot of people I am super grateful to, people that I was able to meet through increased efforts on social media, as well as getting out into the community and networking. I just wanted to give a shout out to every guest that I had on my program this last year. Really, really grateful to people who took time out of their busy schedules to share their stories with the listening audience here at Play Your Position. So for those of you who are listening, you know who you are. And again, thank you so much for making it a really great year. So how was 2014 for you? When you look back over the last 12 months, are you excited that it's over, ready for new projects and adventures, or are you wishing that it was still going? I've been seeing a mixture of posts on Facebook these last couple of days, people answering these questions just on their own, and I would say that more people are ready for the new year and aren't sad to see the old one go than the other way around. Seems to be that way just about every year. I think there's just something so magical and inspirational about January. This time of year, all the holiday fuss has died down and people are zeroing in on what we want to get done, really focusing and clearing our heads, and it just feels like a fresh start. So I want to throw something out for you to consider today. This idea comes from Bo Eason, one of my coaches and mentors, and I really think it's spot on. Rather than set out a ton of goals for yourself this year, commit to becoming better at what you are already good at. Now, this idea is at the center of the theme of this podcast. You play a position in life, and the reason you play it is because you're good at it. Now, if you've been listening to my show for any length of time, you know damn right well that we all play multiple positions throughout our lives. But at the center, at the core of it all, is that one true self, that one position that is yours and no one else's. And that's what I'm talking about, and that's what Bo talks about. Commit to becoming better at your position, at your true self, rather than get caught up in the fray of other people's expectations. Show up each day to play your A game, not your neighbors, not your spouses, not your best friends or your bosses, but your position. What can you do this year to get better at that? That's such a powerful, powerful question. I am committed to becoming better at writing. It's something I already do very well, but I know I can get better. And I'm also committed to getting better at producing content that matters, like this podcast. I am at a point in my life where building up more of my body of work, my legacy, is becoming more and more important to me. So I have to really look beyond all the nonsense and see that one question hanging out there in front of me every single day. And when I do that, the rest just falls away. And I challenge you to do the same. So when you get to a place where you can take 5 to 10 minutes to write down your answer to that question, do it. I know many of you are multitasking when you listen to this podcast. You might be walking or working out at the gym. You might be driving somewhere. You might actually be folding laundry or cooking. So you can't stop and do it right now. It's a very simple question. Again, what can you do this year to get better at playing your position? What are you committed to getting better at? Revisit your answer every single day. And then make sure you do the work that's going to make you better, right? You don't want to just write it down and then not do it. Bo always says, run the miles. He hammers that into all of us who work with him. You got to run the miles. You got to run the miles. I like to say, It's a great day to get out there and play your position. If you're lucky enough to wake up in the morning, it's a great day to get out there and play your position. No excuses, no distractions. Just focus on your position and getting better at it. So I will end today's kickoff episode to 2015 with that challenge to you. And if you're so inclined, let me know how it goes. Share with me what your declaration is. What are you committed to becoming better at? I would love to hear what that is, what you're already good at, and how you're going to become better at it in 2015. And as the clock ticks down to the end of another game here on the Player Position Podcast, I want to wish all of you a very happy and healthy new year. And we will see you again in another episode very soon. Hey team, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Play Your Position Podcast. One of the ways that other people can discover this podcast is through ratings and reviews over on iTunes. So if you enjoy this podcast, I would be so appreciative if you took a couple of minutes to head on over to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, and then leave me an honest rating and review. Doing that helps to get the word out and allows other people who are looking for inspirational content to find it. Again, head on over to iTunes, subscribe to this podcast, and then leave me a rating and review. Really, really appreciate it. And remember, always a great day to get out there and play your position.
Thanks for listening to the Play Your Position Podcast, where your story matters and we make it count at MaryLouKaiser.com.